Now, Air New Zealand's head pilot, Captain Dave Morgan, says there are 5 pilots and 11 crew on board that rescue plane, plus medical and engineering staff.
The 5 pilots consist of 3 captains, a first officer and a second officer. One of those captains is what we call the mission commander. They have overall tactical control of the flight. Then the rest of the crew are just normal pilots. We'd have 3 or 4 pilots on a flight of this length anyway. We've put a 4th pilot, the second officer, for fatigue management. As far as the cabin crew is concerned, Lisa, the team there is a standard 777 wide-bodied cabin crew team. Very experienced team there today, and also a team that's very well trained in dealing with contingencies, especially with regard to medical events that may occur on any flight that we obviously operate.
So 5 pilots, and you say that's probably one more than you would usually have for fatigue, but
That's right.
Is it also a just in case someone gets ill?
It's not so much a case of if somebody gets ill. Going into Wuhan is unusual for us. It's not an airport that we've flown to before. We, in order to mitigate the risks associated with just dealing with the issues on the ground, refuelling, loading of the aircraft, getting a new flight plan and that sort of thing, we're taking one of the guys who will have overall control of that, and then the rest of the team are obviously going to be operating the aeroplane back to New Zealand, and really it's a heavy crew for the purposes of fatigue management and operational control, rather than any expectation that there's going to be a medical event during the course of the flight with respect to the crew.
When you say fatigue control, is this because of the fast turnarounds?
Well, they're flying from Hong Kong up to Wuhan, and then from Wuhan through to New Zealand. So that's going to be something in the order of 16.5, 17-hour duty. And, the safety and operational integrity of the flight and the customers is extremely important. So as a consequence of that, we have to consider crew fatigue as part of the risk mitigations to that.
You say that there's more than one captain on board, but there is one captain in charge. So who is in charge of this operation overall? Who has the final say on things? Is it your staff member, that captain?
No, in actual fact, that will all be referred back to, from a tactical and oversight control, comes back to New Zealand. So what we've instigated there is our Group Emergency Control Centre. That's out at Auckland Airport. I chair that process, and then later on today, when the flight kicks off, I will be part of the decision-making team. If anything pops up while the guys are on the ground in Wuhan, then we will make a call on how the flight will proceed.
When you say we, do you mean Air New Zealand staff back in New Zealand, or are you talking about a component of government, or just Air New Zealand alone?
No, Air New Zealand are in control of the flight, as that is standard civil aviation practice. So while obviously New Zealand MFAT and other government officials will have an interest in the flight, the disposition of the flight remains with the operator in the case of Air New Zealand, and that would be standard practice in an operation such as this.
So how did you find these people? I mean, obviously they're volunteers, but what level of experience do they have, and were you kind of oversubscribed in terms of the number of people you needed?
Absolutely. We were absolutely delighted and thrilled with the response that we got when we put out the call to our staff to seek volunteers to do this flight. We had, I think it was 40 or 50 volunteers within the first 30 minutes of putting the call out last week. The upshot of it is that the 5 pilots are on board are all very experienced. 3 of those 5 have actually operated domestically within China when we used to operate the flight from Hong Kong to London. So they're extremely experienced. We've also had them in the simulator, as some previous media reports have indicated. They took the opportunity of looking at the operation in and out of Wuhan before they left. And as far as the cabin crew is concerned, extremely experienced team as well, and all of them just put their hand up. And as I say, delighted on behalf of the company that we were able to obviously facilitate this team to deliver this operation for the New Zealand government and the passengers on board.
So previously it's been said that there will be no quarantine for your staff members when they get back to New Zealand,
That's
correct?
Right.
So will they be stood down from flights for Air New Zealand for a period of time on their return?
Oh, absolutely. Partly because they've volunteered for this, but secondly, the duty will be one that's extensive. They will have been giving a lot of thought to this operation. When they get back, they need time off. We'll give them more time than would normally be the case before they go back.
How long are you standing them down for?
We're not standing them down. We're just giving them time off. I'm not exactly sure of the time that the fleet management teams and the cabin crew management teams will be doing. But more to the point, they will not be quarantined, and the reason for that is on the basis of the protocols that have been put in place for their interaction with the passengers, who, of course, when they arrive at the aircraft, are asymptomatic and have gone through a fairly extensive, in fact, very extensive screening process to get to the aircraft.
So how much, obviously you've said the pilots will not mix with the passengers on the plane, but the other crew members, will it be like a normal flight? Will food be served? Will there be, drinks served? Will they be interacting with passengers in that way?
Yes, so the pilots will not be interacting with the passengers on board. We've made that as a protocol. That is to obviously reduce any risk of cross-contamination. There will be no need for the pilots to actually enter the cabin. Their ability to obviously take a biological rest and also fatigue management in the crew rest facilities that are on board the aircraft can be accessed without entering into the main cabin areas of the aircraft. As far as the cabin crew are concerned, yes, they will be fully interacting with the passengers on board. There will be a meal service and there will not be alcohol served on the flight, but obviously there will be drinks and food, and of course the medical team on board will be assisting the cabin crew in making sure the welfare and the well-being of the passengers on the flight are maintained.
Do the crew on board have different contracts for this mission?
No, this is the standard. They're doing it under the auspices of their standard contract.
So are there extra payments to the crew who take part?
No, this is these people are volunteered, and they're volunteered to do it on the basis of their normal working relationship with the company.
Just on terms of the layout of the flight, will there be business class passengers as such, or will everybody be the same on the flight?
No. Everybody's the same on the flight, and it's not an Air New Zealand flight. It is a charter to provide a service to New Zealand, so we're not doing business class or premium economy or anything like that. Everybody's going to be in the one section of the aeroplane, and that will be economy.
You mentioned facilities. Will the crew in the cabin use the same bathrooms as the people you are flying back?
Well, with regard to that, restrooms, we are blocking off the business class restrooms for the use of the crew on the flight. But everybody else, all the other restrooms on the aeroplane will be available for the passengers.
And so are there cleaners on board?
There won't be any cleaners on board. What there will be is medical staff from St John's, including a St John's doctor, the Deputy Chief Medical Officer from Air New Zealand, and there are 4 other Air New Zealand staff to help facilitate the turnaround in Wuhan, including engineering and loading and logistics staff. But there's no cleaners on board, but there is a cleaning process that is being put in place to mitigate the risk of contamination, which of course again, as I say, is extremely low given these passengers are presented to the aircraft asymptomatically and also have gone through the screening. That'll include high touch surfaces such as carts, galleys, etc., and with the cabin crew wearing personal protective equipment, which includes masks and gloves. There's no requirement for cleaning to occur during the course of the flight.
So when the plane gets back, will it be treated any differently to any other plane that's been on a long-haul flight in terms of cleaning it?
Yes, it will. So that we will, as a precaution, obviously do what we call a deep clean. This has actually occurred. This is quite normal practice for the airline when we may have a suspected medical event on board an aircraft. So an aircraft is taken out of service and put in for a deep cleaning process. It's well documented and well defined, and in this case, the aircraft will go through this extensive cleaning process before it goes back into service.
Can you think of any other flight like this, anything that's comparable that Air New Zealand has been part of?
Well, we've been part of a lot of things for the government. If it's not the Christchurch earthquakes, where we picked up foreign nationals who lost their, a lot of them lost their passports in the earthquake down there, and we flew 777s up to Wellington. We have had evacuation flights out of the islands in the past. Through to either natural disasters or other events that have occurred in the islands and that sort of thing. So, with respect to this particular type of event, such as a medical or a viral events such as this, no. But we are not unused to doing ad hoc, unusual operations on behalf of either government or other clients. So, and we just bend our processes towards that. We have a great team here who work out the things that we have to think about and the risks that we might have to deal with, and we get down there, work it out, and then get on with it.
I know you've done the risk calculations, but the question remains, what responsibility will Air New Zealand take if one of its staff members gets coronavirus?
Oh, well, we have a responsibility under not only with regard to the Health and Safety Act in New Zealand and the Civil Aviation Act as well, but also with respect to being a good employer, and we will take full responsibility if anybody subsequently becomes sick as a result of operating this flight. But I don't think that it's a high degree of risk on the basis of the fact that the passengers are well when they arrive. They've been screened, and the protocols that we've put in place during the course of the flight down to Auckland.
Understand that, but what do you mean by full responsibility? Is that financial responsibility? Is that compensation? Is that medical care? What would it be?
It's the responsibility that any good employer would take for anybody who would become ill while at work.
Has that been spelt out to staff in some kind of agreement or document or arrangement, what your responsibility would be?
No, it hasn't. Now, as I say, the staff have volunteered for the flight, and as a consequence of that, there is an element of trust between our employees and us as the employer, and we're just delighted to have that relationship with our staff who will obviously be doing this flight for us today.